Is Chicago a hellhole? That's something that Republican State Senator Darren Bailey, he's running for governor. He's said at a debate in the Republican primary. He defended that afterwards. And even at the Illinois State Fair last week, he and his running mate, Stephanie Trussell, have said again that Chicago's a hellhole. I want to hear from you at 217-629-7970 if you think that Chicago is a hellhole. Again, 217-629-7970. It's also the daily poll today, and you can answer that at WMAY.com/poll or on the WMAY mobile app. And right now, the majority of you, 73%, say that, yes, indeed, Chicago is a hellhole. But let's hear some of the comments from the state senator, Darren Bailey, about Chicago and also his running mate, Stephanie Trussell, being asked about this. So this is from last week's Republican Day at the Illinois State Fair here in Springfield.
Friends, our legislature keeps passing more and more radical legislation. They're interfering in our schools. They're raising our taxes. Our taxes are some of the highest in the country. Our legislators going soft on criminals to the point that they've made Chicago a hellhole, friends. Inflation is out of control. Jobs aren't coming back the way that they are everywhere else. Corruption is rampant. Companies are leaving. Families are leaving. Some people are just throwing their hands up and giving up. But I mentioned your hands earlier. Look at them again. You and I are hands-on people. We fix problems all day long. Now we've got to turn our attention to fixing this great state.
So, again, that's Darren Bailey, state senator, talking about, obviously it's a stump speech. He's up on stage discussing this, and his running mate, Stephanie Trussell, who's a Chicago native, was asked by members of the media after the stump speeches at the Illinois State Fair Republican Day last week to respond to this, to address those concerns that Bailey raised, calling Chicago a hellhole, and some people in Chicago saying, no, Chicago's not a hellhole, taking beautiful pictures of the skyscape, the skyline, and the buzz of culture that's in Chicago. But is Chicago a hellhole? Again, I want to hear from you at 217-629-7970. You can also email bishoponair@gmail.com, but the best way to do it to have your voice heard is 217-629-7970. Here's Stephanie Trussell being asked by a member of the media about the statements that Darren Bailey made concerning Chicago being a hellhole.
A hellhole. Again, he doubled down on it.
Well, you know what? Every day I listen to liberal media. I listen to the Black Talk station every day, 7 days a week. Do you guys do that? I listen to the callers. I listen to the hosts describe their conditions. Now, I love Chicago, but I left in 1994 and became a suburban housewife, and now I'm a grandma. So I know what they're saying every day, what the callers are saying. So you know what? What conditions that you describe when little kids can't even go to schools, when kids are getting shot, 5-month-old kids in their car seats. You know how long it takes to put a car seat in? Once you put that $300 car seat in your car, it takes you about 30 minutes. That should be the safest place for a kid to be. A 5-month-old kid gets shot in her car seat. Do we even know that kid's name? No, we don't. That's what we need to be talking about.
So what would you talk about Darren Bailey's comments about the Holocaust and abortion? Where do you
Well, you guys have already gotten statements on that. I thought.
All right, so other questions brought up about a variety of other things that have been said in the past by the Bailey-Trussell campaign, but I want to hear from you. 217-629-7970. Is Chicago a hellhole? It's now 8:14 here, and definitely want to hear from you. Majority of people on our daily poll at WMAY.com/poll indicate that they feel Chicago is a hellhole. And I think it's because of headlines that we see regularly out of Chicago showing just this one from the Chicago Sun-Times, 38 shot, 4 fatally in Chicago weekend gun violence. Seems to be a regular occurrence in Chicago with the levels of violence that there is, let alone the looting that we saw happen in Chicago in busy busy business corridors that happened in 2020 and thereafter. Plus, you've got carjackings that are nearly sixfold where they were just a handful of years ago in Chicago. Plus, you've got a state's attorney that's controversial out of Cook County, not necessarily going after criminals as the way some would want, and a variety of other issues that Chicago's contending with. 217-629-7970. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Hey, good morning. How are you doing today?
Good. Yourself?
Not bad at all. That response from these politicians, that is so disgusting. Because as a veteran, I didn't go and serve for Washington or for Indiana or even Chicago. I served for this nation. And for any politician to call any city or town in this country a hellhole, that's just really disgusting.
Well, I think they're saying it in a way to urge people to get, them their support so that they can come in and, quote, change Chicago from being a hellhole. They're not necessarily disparaging it, but they're still using that rhetoric.
Right. I totally understand that. This is their way of enabling their base to be more hateful and spiteful against people and even against people in Chicago. I live down here in Springfield now. I'm not a native. I was born and raised in Chicago. But the southern I get, the more distaste I hear about Chicago. And it's all politics.
Yeah.
No one that I've talked to has ever gone up there and met anyone and visited the city and said, oh, you know what? This is a hellhole.
I tell you, every time I go to Chicago, I have a good time. I've got a friend who lives up there, and he's got a condo, but even he has stories that are alarming. People getting shot right outside of his condo, and just increased police presence.
They can do a lot to clean it up.
Yeah.
They can do a lot to clean it up.
And I think that's where the rhetoric's coming from is pointing out that there is a problem and having to do something about it. Hey, I appreciate the call. Thanks for chiming in. Got to take more of them. 217-629-7970 is the phone number. Again, 217-629-7970. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Hey, good morning. If you think about it and do it per capita, Springfield's kind of the real hellhole.
Well, not just Springfield. Peoria's having problems with gun violence. Decatur's having problems with gun violence.
Exactly. I can find violence in all those cities. And if you, again, per capita, we're probably worse.
St. Louis has, I think, the worst murder rate in the country.
See, I could find more things to do in Chicago, so I really don't want to call it a hellhole. Here, there's not really anything to do but go check out Abe Lincoln for the, millionth time.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, hey, it's Abe Lincoln. You can't go wrong with checking out Abe Lincoln.
You're right, but how many times do you have to see it in your grade school years? Come on.
Hey, quit dissing Lincoln, all right? You don't do that on Springfield airwaves, okay?
I like Abe. Bye.
Appreciate it. 217-629-7970. Is Chicago a hellhole? Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Well, it's definitely not a place I would want to live. I can tell you that. Is it a hellhole? Yeah, it's got some hellhole issues. When's the last time you've been up there, Greg?
Oh, gosh. Before the pandemic.
So you also understand that when you drive and you get on the tolls up there, you have to pay those in advance.
Yeah.
Do they advertise that anywhere?
I tell you what, I did go up to the Chicagoland area. I didn't go to Chicago proper for I was a member of the last Republican gubernatorial debate, being one of the moderators. So I did go to I think it was the College of DuPage. I totally forgot that I drove through some toll booths. Because they don't have, you can't pull off and actually put cash in it anymore.
No, you can't. You have to literally pay in advance, or they write you a fine. And
I got a $14 bill out of nowhere. I was like, oh, great. You know what? I can imagine that really impacting some disadvantaged people severely.
Sure. Well, especially when you don't know you owe it.
Right. Yeah.
But look at all the crime that goes on every weekend. How many shootings happened over the weekend? I'll bet.
I just read this headline: 38 shot, 4 fatally in Chicago over the weekend. That's just from the weekend. Hey, I appreciate the call. I want to take one more here before the break. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
I was born and raised in Chicago on the north side. I lived there 56 years. I'm scared to go back. It's a hellhole. I lived there It was the most wonderful city. It's a world-class city.
It really is.
And it's a shithole.
Okay, all right. That's well, we can't go there and say that, but all right. Appreciate the calls. 217-629-7970. It's a good thing we got this dump button here. All right, gotta take a break. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. All right, 8:20 now. Let's take a look at Springfield's dependable